What managers are available if Derby County are to let John Eustace go and are to sack him just a few months into this long-term project? Now, obviously, there's going to be plenty of managers out there who Derby County could potentially look at, and there's plenty of managers who Derby County won't even bat an eyelid at and will just quickly ignore them. Now, that is obviously a huge conversation for me, and you can obviously let me know your thoughts on who you think Derby County should potentially chase should John Eustace get sacked. But obviously, it's a long time until a decision is made. So if you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. But let's get into it. Now, for me, my number one choice has to be Lee Carsley. I think Lee Carsley with the England under-21s has been absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, he took that spell with the first team as well, and I think he was great with England's first team. And I was actually very surprised that in the end, he didn't get given the job. I did think that there was a possibility that it would end up being Pep Guardiola taking over that job at the end of this current season. But ultimately, he ended up renewing his contract at Manchester City, so he won't be coming to England. So that ended up with Lee Carsley going back down to the 21s, and obviously he enjoys that job with the 21s. But will Derby County tempt him into a role? Now, let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. Now, obviously, there's many different managers that I can name, and ultimately, there's not really one that I really want to chuck out apart from really Lee Carsley, and that sort of is a little bit of a problem for me, because as much as we go back 12 months time and we look at the people who were sort of around when Paul Warne should have been sacked, you look around the December period, the problem that we have is that there's so many different opportunities and different managers that you could potentially take on, that when you then make a decision and sack a manager, ultimately it has to be the right one. And ultimately for Derby County, making that decision is not going to be an easy one. And it is really difficult. It is really difficult to discuss, because I really like John Eustace. I really wish John Eustace could have... I really wish this whole situation could have worked out better, but ultimately it hasn't. Now, if we look at some of the managers that are available, you've got Michael Carrick, who was at Middlesbrough. You've got the likes of Tony Mowbray, there's Nigel Pearson, there's Mick McCarthy, there's Danny Roll, Tony Pulis, Ruben Sellers. There's so many different names, and I'm not going to turn around and say that I want Wayne Rooney back, but Wayne Rooney is available, and it's genuinely really hard to discuss this conversation. For me, I would really like Lee Carsley. I think Lee Carsley would be perfect for Derby. I think it would be sort of literally exactly what we need in terms of a manager coming into the club. You look at potential former Premier League managers who you could potentially bring in. You've got... who have you got? Gary O'Neill, I think, is still available. You look at who else is available. Graham Potter, he won't come, obviously. He'll end up at the Swedish national team. You look at... There's so many available. There's so many. Michael Carrick. Keep going back to Michael Carrick. Neil Critchley. Not saying we should go and get Neil Critchley, though, by the way. Obviously, Tony Mowbray, who I mentioned earlier. Steve Holland, former assistant manager of England. You look then at some of the other options: Nigel Adkins, Kevin Phillips, Gary Monk, Steven Gerrard, Luke Williams. Now, I'm not saying that any of these managers should be given the opportunity to manage this football club. There's Ian Evatt, former Derby links. Obviously, Gary O'Neill, who I mentioned earlier. I'm just scrolling through transfer market here, looking at available managers, because there's so many. But who ultimately will take on this poison chalice of Derby County, where ultimately it just doesn't seem to want to work? I genuinely don't know where Derby County do go from here, because I love what we've got. I love the thought. I love the thought of John Eustace doing well at Derby County. I love the thought of him taking us to the promised land of the Premier League. I look forward to seeing Derby County move forward. But ultimately, we've gone backwards in the summer. We've signed all these players who are supposed to sort of make us a better team. And ultimately, the only thing that it has actually done is send us backwards. And it's really, really disappointing for me. It's really disappointing. Like, I think it was yesterday I released a video in regards to the transfer market and the players that Derby County bought in and things like that. And I genuinely think Derby County had a really good transfer window. And I don't understand what has gone so wrong. What has gone so wrong? Like, I think Carlton Morris, great signing. I think David Ozo, Ryan Brewster, Bobby Clark, Lewis Travis, great signings. Max Johnston at the moment leaves a lot to be desired. Ben Brereton Diaz leaves a lot to be desired. Dion Sanderson, very hit and miss. Owen Beck, not even touched the pitch. Patrick Agyemang, in my opinion, very hit and miss. Vyman and Bart, hit and miss for me. So it's difficult. It's a very, very difficult position that we do find ourselves in at Derby County, because there's so much that we could do and there's so much that could be better for Derby County. And I think with the right manager, I think we could make it work. But I think the problem is under John Eustace at the moment is we're not creating chances. We've spent 8 million on a striker and we don't have the ability to create a chance to make it happen. And that's sort of a huge problem for me, because if you're not creating chances, that means you're not scoring goals. If you're not scoring goals, that means you're not winning games. If you're not even giving yourself the opportunity to win games, you're a bit fucked, aren't you? To be quite honest, you are a bit fucked. And that, for me, is hugely worrying. Hugely, hugely worrying. And I just don't think Derby County have been very good this season at all under John Eustace. I've spoke about it in the last few videos. We'll probably have a video out tomorrow talking about the injuries to Derby County and talking about the injuries, talking about the players that aren't sort of making anything happen. And I am worried. I genuinely am worried about what's going on at Derby County. I really hope that at some point we can turn this around, but ultimately so far this season it doesn't look very likely. It does not look very likely. So we're going to have to wait and see if Derby County can turn it around, if John Eustace gets the opportunity to turn it around. There's so many different things that can be made, and right now I just don't know what decision is going to be made. I don't know what David Clowes is going to do. I don't know what potential managers out there are going to decide to do either. But who would your choice be as Derby County manager? Who would it be? Would it be going out and getting someone like Lee Carsley? Would it be going out and getting someone like, Gary O'Neill? Would it be something like that? You can obviously let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Go and vote on the poll, which I posted yesterday. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.